Modern love isn't tender, it's tactical, and if you walked into it unprepared, you'd be eaten alive. You enter the arena not through a door, but through a swipe. The glow of your screen becomes a torchlight, illuminating thousands of faces, smiles, filters, possibilities. It feels like abundance, but it's really noise wearing perfume. We call it dating, but it's closer to combat disguised as connection. Every text is a move, every silence a counterattack, every like a tiny signal fired across the digital battlefield. It's no longer about finding love, it's about surviving attention. Here's the first truth: your instincts were built for a world that no longer exists. In the ancestral past, love meant proximity, community, repetition. You fell for the person you met in your tribe because you saw them every day. Attachment was built through routine, predictability, familiar touch. But the modern mind is thrown into an endless ocean of novelty. Evolution never prepared us for infinite choice. That's why dating apps trigger the same brain systems as slot machines. Variable rewards, anticipation, dopamine bursts. You're not choosing a partner, you're conditioning your brain to chase possibilities. Picture this, it's 1:47 a.m. Someone's thumb moves across a glowing screen, half awake, half lonely. Left, right, every swipe is both an act of hope and a confession of despair. The ritual continues, not because it works, but because it feels like it might. That tiny uncertainty keeps you trapped in the loop, a phenomenon psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. You never know when you'll win, so you keep playing, and the irony? The more options you have, the less capable you become of choosing any of them. The arena doesn't reward sincerity, it rewards strategy. If you don't know the game you're in, you'll mistake manipulation for romance. But what happens when love itself becomes a marketplace and people start competing, not to connect but to win? Love used to be sacred. Now it's transactional, and everyone's for sale. Walk through any modern dating app and you'll see it. A silent economy, trading validation like currency. Profiles aren't people, they're storefronts. Each photo, each caption, a price tag for desirability. But in this market, the currency isn't money, it's attention. Every like you give devalues you slightly more. Every reply too fast makes you cheaper. And the more accessible you are, the less you're worth. Psychologists call this the scarcity principle. What's rare seems valuable. What's available becomes invisible. The paradox: we crave love to be seen, yet the more we show ourselves, the less we're seen at all. Our ancestors had a village. You have a planet. Endless choice sounds like freedom, until you realize it's a trap. Psychologist Barry Schwartz called it the paradox of choice. Too many options paralyze the mind. Every decision comes with the ghost of the one you didn't choose, so you start treating people like possibilities, not partners. You scroll, compare, upgrade. You wonder, what if there's someone slightly better? And that question quietly poisons every connection that follows. Because if you believe perfection is always one swipe away, no one real can ever compete. Imagine this, you go on a date. It's fine, warm, funny, human. But your brain whispers, you can do better. You open the app on the way home, and suddenly reality looks dull compared to the highlights of strangers. That's why one unanswered text can ruin your entire week. Modern love is a battlefield where attachment styles clash like opposing armies. The anxious chase connection to feel safe, the avoidant run from connection to stay free. Together, they create the most tragic chemistry of all, pursuit and retreat, and technology amplifies this dance. The anxious one checks last seen, replays conversations, waits for closure that never comes. The avoidant one disappears, not out of cruelty, but because silence feels safer than confrontation. Ghosting becomes a strategy, not to punish, but to protect the self from vulnerability. The result: two nervous systems, both terrified, speaking in opposite languages, each one confirming the other's worst fear. Here's the cruelest part. When the ghost finally reappears with a "hey, been busy" or a random emoji, your brain lights up like it's been rescued. That's intermittent reinforcement. Unpredictable affection creates the strongest form of addiction. It's the same mechanism casinos use, the same one abusers use, and now the same one that defines digital romance. You're not addicted to the person, you're addicted to the hope of their return. Picture her, waiting in a cafe, scrolling through old messages. The conversation ended with a laugh. No fight, no reason, just silence. She replays his last "good night," looking for a clue. What she doesn't see is him, on another screen, typing the same words to someone new, because he's chasing peace, not connection. Neither is evil. They're both scared. But fear, when left unspoken, turns people into ghosts. In modern love, silence isn't absence, it's communication. And what it says is louder than any reply. I control the rhythm. You wait. But silence isn't the final illusion. Love turns into performance, and everyone wears a mask even when they're trying to be real. Modern love isn't about who you are, it's about who you can convince them you are. Every date is a stage, every profile a script, and every message a carefully rehearsed line. We've turned courtship into performance art. The camera lens replaces the mirror. We don't ask, "Do I like them?" We ask, "How do I look next to them?" Psychologists call this impression management, the art of curating perception. It's not always deceit, it's survival. Because in a world where vulnerability feels like exposure, you learn to perform safety instead of feeling it. But here's the tragedy. The more we perform, the harder it becomes to be known. Imagine two people who fall in love with each other's profiles. Their texts are flawless, witty, poetic, emotionally fluent. But when they meet, something feels off. Their chemistry exists in the cloud, not in the air. They didn't fall for each other. They fell for their digital reflections. Psychologists call this the idealization trap, when desire is built on projection, not reality. And when the real person fails to match the fantasy, the disappointment feels like betrayal, even though no one lied. We live in an era where even authenticity is curated. Be real becomes a brand. Vulnerability is timed, captioned, filtered. Crying on camera feels honest, but it's still content. Love, too, becomes performative. We post anniversary reels, soft launch relationships, measure affection through likes and comments. Intimacy moves from private experience to public performance. And the cost? Depth dies quietly beneath the applause. When love becomes theater, emotional intimacy turns into role play. You become the character your partner desires, and they become the audience you need. But performance creates distance. The more you control your image, the more fragile your connection becomes, because love that depends on perfection cannot survive truth. Sooner or later, the mask slips, and when it does, most people don't stay to meet the face underneath. If you perform to be loved, you'll attract spectators, not partners. Real love doesn't applaud, it witnesses. But in a world obsessed with appearances, some people find a darker way to hold attention, by turning scarcity into power. In modern love, the cruelest power move isn't rejection, it's withholding. There's a reason the most desired people seem the least available. Scarcity signals value, not just in economics, but in psychology. When something feels rare, our brains label it as important. That's why the person who replies less often suddenly feels more desirable. In the wild, scarcity meant survival. Food, water, mates. But in digital romance, scarcity becomes strategy. Don't text too fast. Disappear a little. Make them miss you. You're not connecting anymore, you're managing perception. And the cruel part? It works. The human brain equates uncertainty with importance. Every delay, every unanswered message triggers anticipation loops in the reward center. That anticipation, not the actual reward, fuels attraction. This is the scarcity principle in action, amplified by intermittent reinforcement. The less predictable someone is, the more addicted you become. Psychologists warn that this dynamic creates trauma bonds, relationships built on highs and withdrawals, not intimacy. It's not love, it's emotional gambling. Now imagine someone who understands this deeply. They've learned that silence can bend desire, that being unavailable creates demand, so they weaponize distance. They text just enough to stay relevant. Withdraw right when you lean in. Show affection only when you begin to pull away. This isn't coincidence, it's calculated scarcity. Every absence is a hook, every return a hit of dopamine. It's emotional economics, a trade between anxiety and attention. Scarcity may create desire, but it destroys trust. And without trust, desire always decays into suspicion. But scarcity isn't the only force shaping this battlefield. Behind every text, every pull and push, there's something deeper, a system designed to keep you hooked. You think you're chasing love, but love isn't what's rewarding you. Dopamine is. Every notification, every scene mark, every three-dot typing bubble, they're not just symbols, they're triggers. Tiny cues designed to keep your nervous system on edge. You check your phone not for messages, but for relief. That flicker of light isn't connection, it's a reward cue. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. The same principle that keeps gamblers at slot machines now keeps lovers chained to uncertainty. You never know when they'll reply. You never know what it'll mean. And that not knowing, that's the hook. Every interaction follows a pattern: anticipation, reward, crash, craving. You meet someone new, dopamine spikes. They text back fast, another hit. Then silence. The crash. You wait. You scroll. You ache. And when they finally respond, the system floods again. You call it chemistry. Your brain calls it survival conditioning. In truth, you're being trained, not by the person, but by your own biology. Each emotional high rewires the mind to crave volatility over peace. That's why stability feels boring, and why chaos feels like passion. Some people have learned to use this loop, consciously or not. They give affection like breadcrumbs, then pull away to make you chase. Each cycle deepens your emotional dependence. They don't need to promise love. They just need to interrupt it. That interruption resets the craving. It's not affection you're addicted to, it's uncertainty. And uncertainty is the most powerful drug the nervous system knows. Dating apps, social platforms, even message interfaces, they thrive on these cycles. They don't want you satisfied. They want you engaged. Your heartbreak isn't a bug, it's a feature. The more unpredictable your interactions, the more time you spend chasing clarity that never comes. The system feeds on your confusion, because confused people keep clicking. When love feels like a roller coaster, check who built the track. Real connection calms your nervous system. It doesn't hijack it. But here's the question no one asks. If everything around you is built to manipulate your emotions, how do you reclaim control? Survival in modern love isn't about playing harder. It's about refusing to play the wrong game. At some point, you stop blaming others. You stop blaming the apps. You stop blaming the ghosts. And you start asking a deeper question. What part of me keeps walking back into the fire? Because the system can only manipulate what you don't understand. When you begin to see the pattern, truly see it, the spell breaks. It's not cynicism, it's clarity. And clarity is the first step toward peace. To survive modern love, you don't need more strategy. You need awareness. Psychologists call this metacognition, the ability to step outside your own emotions and observe them. When you feel that pull to check your phone, pause. Ask yourself, am I seeking connection or dopamine? This single pause rewires everything. It turns reaction into reflection, and reflection restores power. Modern love runs on speed, fast replies, fast judgments, fast exits. To resist it, you must move in the opposite direction. Slowness. Slowness is rebellion. It's the art of being deliberate in a world addicted to instant gratification. In turn, dating into ritual, not roulette. Meet fewer people, but meet them fully. Replace the thrill of novelty with the quiet depth of curiosity. Emotional hygiene means tending to your nervous system like it's sacred. Boundaries, silence, solitude. These aren't walls. They're filters, allowing only what nourishes you. In turn, dating into ritual, not roulette. Meet fewer people, but meet them fully. Replace the thrill of novelty with the quiet depth of curiosity. Emotional hygiene means tending to your nervous system like it's sacred. Boundaries, silence, solitude. These aren't walls. They're filters, allowing only what nourishes you. Love at its core isn't supposed to feel like adrenaline. It's supposed to feel like safety, not a chase, but a homecoming. You can't control how others love, but you can control what kind of love you'll participate in. That means walking away from people who confuse chaos with passion. It means choosing consistency over chemistry, depth over drama, truth over thrill. Because real love doesn't demand you lose your peace to prove its worth. Survival isn't about becoming colder, it's about becoming conscious. You don't escape the game by winning it, you escape by refusing to play small. The modern arena of love is loud, fast and cruel. But inside that chaos, quiet souls still find each other, not by competing for attention, but by creating a new language of presence. So when someone asks how to survive modern love, tell them this. You don't survive it by fighting harder. You survive it by loving wiser. And maybe that's what evolution always wanted. Not stronger instincts, but more awakened ones.